The space station floated in the darkness between stars. It was old now, built 40 years ago as a place where species could meet without fighting. They called it the Archive, because here, historians came to record the stories of wars that had ended. Yoon Harry walked through the long white corridor. She was 32 years old, with short black hair and tired eyes. She had spent 8 years collecting stories from veterans of the Human Velith War. Most of them talked easily. They wanted people to remember what happened. But today was different. Today, she was going to meet a man who had refused to speak for 47 years. His name was Kang Do-hyun. He was 68 years old now, a retired sergeant who had served in the 7th Orbital Infantry. The record said he was a hero. The record said he had done impossible things during the siege of Outpost Kira, but Do-hyun had never confirmed any of it. He had gone home after the war, lived quietly, and said nothing, until last month. Last month, he sent a message to the archive. Just 3 words. I will talk. Harry did not know why he had changed his mind. She did not care. This was the interview she had wanted her whole career. The door to the meeting room slid open. Inside, an old man sat at a metal table. He was thin, with gray hair cut short, and a face full of deep lines. His hands rested on the table, and Harry could see the scars on his fingers. Burn marks. Old wounds that had healed wrong. Sergeant Kang, she said, bowing slightly. Thank you for agreeing to meet me. Rend. Do-hyun looked at her with calm eyes. Sit down, he said. His voice was rough, like stones grinding together. And call me Do-hyun. I stopped being a sergeant a long time ago. Hayeri sat across from him. She placed her recording device on the table and pressed the button to start. I have read everything about Outpost Kira, she said. But I want to hear it from you. What really happened? Do-hyun did not answer immediately. He looked at the recording device, then at the door behind Hayeri. We are not alone, he said. Hayeri turned. The door had opened again, and someone else was entering the room. But this was not a human. The creature was tall, nearly 2 meters, with gray-blue skin that looked like leather. It had 4 arms, each ending in 3 long fingers. Its face was flat, with 2 large black eyes and a small mouth. It moved slowly, carefully, like it was afraid of breaking something. Hayri stood up quickly. This is a private interview, she said. Who authorized you to be here? I did, Do-hyun said quietly. Hayeri stared at him. You invited a Velith? His name is Relox, Do-hyun said. He was there, at Kira, on the other side. Relox walked to the table and sat in a chair that was too small for his body. His black eyes moved from Hayeri to Do-hyun. When he spoke, his voice was strange, like wind blowing through pipes. I requested to be here, Relox said. I am old now. I will die soon. Before I die, I want the truth to be recorded. Not human truth. Not Velith truth. Just truth. Hayeri sat back down slowly. Her heart was beating fast. In her 8 years of work, she had never interviewed a human and Velith together. The 2 species had been at peace for decades, but the hatred still lived in many hearts. You fought each other, she said. Why would you want to tell this story together? Do-hyun and Relox looked at each other. Something passed between them. Something Hayri could not understand. It was not friendship. It was not forgiveness. It was something deeper than both, because no one else can understand. Do-hyun said. Only soldiers who were there know what happened. And almost all of them are dead now. Relox made a sound that might have been a sigh. When the war began, he said, my people thought humans would be easy to defeat. We had studied your species. You are small. Your skin is soft. You have no claws. No armor. No venom. Your eyes cannot see in darkness. Your ears cannot hear high sounds. By every measure we used, humans were weak. You were wrong, Hayri said. Yes. Relox's voice dropped lower. We were wrong about everything. Do-hyun leaned back in his chair. The Velith were not evil, he said. They wanted our territory because they needed space for their growing population. They looked at us and saw animals, soft little creatures that would run away when the killing started. He smiled, but there was no happiness in it. They did not understand what humans are. What are humans? Harry asked. Relox answered. We learned the answer at Outpost Kira. But the lesson cost us everything. Hayeri turned on a second recording device. She wanted to make sure every word was saved. Tell me about Kira, she said. Do-hyun closed his eyes. For a moment, he looked like he was in pain. Kira was a moon, he said. Small, cold, not important. We had a base there with 114 soldiers. Our job was to watch the border. Nothing ever happened there. He opened his eyes. Then 12,000 Velith soldiers arrived. 12,000 against 114, Hayeri said softly. They gave us a chance to surrender, Do-hyun said. They were not cruel. They said if we put down our weapons, they would take us as prisoners and treat us well. They thought we would be grateful for the offer. What did you do? Do-hyun looked at Relox. What do you think we did? Relox shook his head slowly. Your captain sent back a message. 2 words. She said, come try. Come try. Hayeri felt a chill run down her spine. What happened next? The siege, Do-hyun said. 72 hours that changed the war. 72 hours that changed everything the galaxy believed about humans. Relox leaned forward, his forearms pressed against the table. The Velith High Council still has nightmares about Outpost Kira, he said. Our children are taught about it in schools. Not as a victory or a defeat, but as a warning. A warning about what? Hayeri asked. Relox's black eyes seemed to grow darker. A warning about what happens when you make humans angry. A warning about fighting a species that does not know how to give up. Do-hyun stood up slowly. He walked to the window and looked out at the stars. I was 21 years old, he said quietly. I had never killed anyone. I had never watched my friends die. I thought I understood war because I had trained for it. He turned back to face them. I understood nothing. None of us did. We learned the truth at Kira. We learned what humans become when there is no hope left. And what is that? Hayeri asked. Do-hyun's eyes were hard as stone. We become the thing that monsters fear. Relox made a sound that might have been a laugh, or might have been a cry. Yes, he said. That is exactly right. You became the thing that monsters fear, and we Velith learned that we were not the monsters in that war. Hayeri looked at both of them, the old human soldier and the old Velith warrior. They had tried to kill each other 47 years ago. Now they sat together, bound by memories that no one else could share. Tell me everything, she said. From the beginning. Do-hyun sat back down. Relox settled into his chair. And together, they began to tell the story of Outpost Kira. The memory came back to Do-hyun like a cold wind. He could see the moon again in his mind. Gray rocks everywhere. No trees, no water, just dust and craters under a black sky. The base was built into the side of a small mountain, with thick metal walls and only 3 ways to get inside. I was young and stupid, Do-hyun said. When the Velith ships appeared in the sky, I thought it was a mistake. I thought they would realize we were not worth fighting and leave. Relox made a low sound in his throat. We thought the same thing about you. We thought you would see our numbers and surrender immediately. Why would anyone choose to die when they could live? Hayeri listened carefully, her recording devices capturing every word. Do-hyun continued. Our captain was a woman named Bae Ji-yeon. She was 34 years old. Not tall, not loud, not the kind of person you would notice in a crowd, but when she spoke, everyone listened. He remembered the moment clearly. The alarm was screaming. Soldiers were running to their positions, and Captain Ji-yeon stood in the command center, looking at the screen that showed 12,000 enemy soldiers landing outside. She did not panic, Do-hyun said. She did not even raise her voice. She looked at that number, 12,000, and she smiled. I will never forget that smile. It was like she knew something the rest of us did not. What did she know? Harry asked. Relox answered. She knew that numbers do not win wars. Will wins wars. And humans have more will than any species in the galaxy. Do-hyun nodded slowly. Ji-yeon gathered all of us together. 114 soldiers standing in the main hall. Most of us were young. Some of us had never seen real combat. We were scared. I could smell the fear in the room. He paused, remembering her words. She said, "They want us to be afraid. They want us to count their soldiers and give up. But I am going to tell you something they do not know. Every human being carries the memory of 1,000 ancestors who refused to die. We come from people who survived ice ages, plagues, famines, and wars. Giving up is not in our blood. So today, we are going to teach these aliens what humanity really means." Hyeri felt something stir in her chest. Pride. Maybe. Or sadness. Relox spoke again. "We had scouts watching your base. They reported that your captain gave a speech. They said the human soldiers were crying. We thought this was good. We thought you were crying because you knew you would die." "We were crying," Do-hyun said. "But not because we were giving up. We were crying because we had decided to fight. And we knew some of us would never go home." The first attack came 2 hours later. The Velith did not waste time. They sent 3,000 soldiers straight at the main entrance, expecting to break through in minutes. "I was stationed at the east corridor," Do-hyun said. 12 of us guarding one hallway. We could hear the fighting at the main gate. Explosions. Screaming. The walls were shaking. He remembered loading his weapon. His hands were trembling. The soldier next to him, a woman named Park Eun-ji, saw his fear. "She put her hand on my shoulder," Do-hyun said. "She told me, 'Do not think about dying. Think about the enemy in front of you. Kill him. Then kill the next one. That is all you have to do.'" Eun-ji was 23 years old. She had grown up on a farming colony and joined the military to pay for her mother's medical treatment. She was not a warrior. She was just a person who needed money. "The enemy broke through a side wall," Do-hyun said. "They came at us with blades and weapons I had never seen before. Eun-ji was the first to fire. She killed 2 of them before they even knew she was there." Relox shifted in his chair. "I was leading one of the assault teams. We were not at the east corridor. But we heard reports. Your soldiers were holding positions that should have fallen in seconds. Our commanders did not understand. They did not understand humans," Do-hyun said. "The fighting at the east corridor lasted 3 hours. 12 humans against wave after wave of Velith soldiers. By the end, 6 humans were dead, and the other 6 were wounded. But the corridor held." Eun-ji took a spear through her shoulder, Do-hyun said. His voice was quieter now. "The blade went all the way through. I saw it sticking out of her back." "Do you know what she did?" Haeri shook her head. "She grabbed the spear with both hands, broke the blade off, and pulled the shaft out of her body. Then she picked up her weapon and kept fighting." Do-hyun's eyes were wet. "She fought for 6 more hours with a hole through her shoulder. She never complained. She never asked to rest." Relox leaned forward. "This is what broke our soldiers. Not your weapons. Not your tactics. Your refusal to act like wounded creatures. On my world, when an animal is hurt, it runs or hides. It tries to protect itself. But humans do the opposite. When you are hurt, you become more dangerous. We do not have a choice," Do-hyun said. "Running does not work for humans. We are not fast. We are not strong. Our only advantage is that we do not stop." By the end of the first day, 19 hours of continuous fighting, the numbers told an impossible story. 2,400 Velith soldiers were dead. Not wounded, dead. All 114 humans were wounded, some badly. But none of them had retreated. None of them had surrendered. "Our commander called for reinforcements," Relox said. "Not because we were losing. We still had 9,000 soldiers. But our troops were refusing to advance. They would stand at the entrance of corridors and not move. They said the humans were demons. They said it was not possible to kill them. Hayeri looked at the old Velith with surprise. Your soldiers were afraid? Terrified, Relok said. The Velith are warriors. We train from childhood to fight and die with honor. But nothing in our training prepared us for humans. You did not fight like a species that wanted to live. You fought like a species that wanted to take us with you into death. Do-hyun nodded. That is exactly what we wanted, Captain Ji-yeon told us from the beginning. If we die, making them pay for every step. We die so that the next Velith commander will think twice before attacking humans again. It worked, Relok said softly. It worked better than you can imagine. The second wave of Velith arrived the next morning. 5,000 fresh soldiers to replace the ones who were too afraid to fight. Their commander was a famous warrior named Vortan. Known for breaking enemy lines with brutal speed, Vortan watched recordings of the first day, Relok said. He saw humans fighting with broken bones. He saw humans carrying wounded friends while shooting with their other hand. He saw your soldiers joking with each other while enemy fire hit the walls around them. What did he say? Hayeri asked. Relok was quiet for a moment. He said, These creatures are not natural. Something is wrong with their minds. They do not react to pain and death the way living things should react. Do-hyun laughed bitterly. There is nothing wrong with our minds. We just understand something the Velith did not. Fear is not a wall. It is a door. You can let it trap you inside, or you can walk through it. Your captain said something similar. Relok said. We captured one of your communication signals during the second day. She was talking to her soldiers through the radio. She said, Fear is just your body telling you that something important is happening. Thank your fear. It means you are still alive. Now use it. Hayeri wrote down the words. She wanted to remember them. By the end of the second day, Do-hyun said, we had lost 31 soldiers. 83 of us were still fighting. The Velith had lost nearly 4,000. He looked at Relok with something like respect. Your people did not give up easily. They kept coming. They were brave. We were not brave, Relok said. We were following orders. There is a difference. Brave is what you were. Brave is choosing to fight when no one is making you. Brave is standing in front of death and saying, not today. The interview room was silent for a moment. Outside the window, stars burned in the endless darkness. Inside, two old enemies sat together, sharing memories that still hurt after all these years. The worst was yet to come, Do-hyun said finally. The third day broke something in everyone. Human and Velith alike. By the time it was over, none of us were the same. Hayeri leaned forward. What happened on the third day? Do-hyun and Relok looked at each other. The weight of old pain passed between them. The third day, Do-hyun said slowly, is when we stopped being soldiers and became something else. Something that still gives Relok nightmares. Relok nodded. Something that still gives the entire galaxy nightmares. The third day began with music. Relok remembered it clearly. His soldiers were preparing for another assault when strange sounds started coming from the human base. At first, he thought it was some kind of weapon or signal. But it was not. Your soldiers were playing songs, Relok said. Through their helmet speakers, through the base communication system, we could hear it across the battlefield. Loud, strange human music with drums and voices. Do-hyun smiled, a real smile this time. That was Sergeant Nam Ji-hae. She said if we were going to die, we should at least enjoy our last hours. She connected her music player to the base speakers and let it play. Your soldiers were dancing, Relok said. There was wonder in his voice. We watched through our viewing devices. Humans with blood on their faces, wounds on their bodies, dancing between attacks, laughing, making jokes we could not understand. Hayeri shook her head in disbelief. They were not afraid? Of course they were afraid, Do-hyun said. But humans have a strange relationship with fear. When things become bad enough, something in our minds changes. We stop caring about survival. We start caring about meaning, and in that moment, the most meaningful thing we could do was laugh in the face of death. The Velith commanders tried psychological warfare. They broadcast messages telling the humans they would die slowly if they did not surrender. They displayed the bodies of fallen human soldiers. They made threats against human colonies. None of it worked, Rilok said. Your soldiers responded by singing louder. One of your soldiers stood at a window where we could see her and made an insulting gesture with her hand. Our younger warriors did not understand, but our translators told us what it meant. It was very rude. Do-hyun laughed. That was Private Yu Mire. She was 19 years old. She had never left her home planet before joining the military. By the third day, she had killed 14 enemies and been shot twice. And she still found time to insult your army. The Velith sent their best assassin into the base, a specially trained warrior who could move without sound and see in complete darkness. His mission was to kill the human leaders and break their spirit. He entered through a damaged section of the wall, Rilok said. We lost contact with him after 20 minutes. An hour later, your soldiers threw his body out of the base. Do-hyun's face became serious. He killed 2 of our people before we found him. Good soldiers. My friends. He paused. We hunted him through the dark corridors with broken equipment and makeshift weapons. 5 of us against 1 trained assassin. How did you find him? Harry asked. We did not need to find him. We made noise. We let him know where we were. He came to us. Do-hyun looked at his scarred hands. Humans are not good at many things, but we are very good at being stubborn. We knew he would come eventually. We just had to wait. The assassin had killed thousands of enemies in his career. He had never failed a mission. But when he faced 5 wounded humans in a dark corridor, something went wrong. Your soldiers were not afraid of him, Rilok said. Our reports said they were talking to each other calmly, making plans. One of them was bleeding badly but refused to leave. The assassin told us later, before he died from his wounds, that he had never seen anything like it. He said the humans looked at him like he was already dead, like killing him was just a task to complete before dinner. Do-hyun nodded. We were tired. We were hurt. We had watched friends die for 3 days. By that point, one more enemy was nothing. He was just a problem to solve. Sergeant Nam Jihya was the medical officer. She was 40 years old, a former doctor who had joined the military after her clinic was destroyed in a Velith raid. She worked without rest for the entire siege, treating wounds, performing surgeries, keeping soldiers alive. On the 3rd day she ran out of proper medicine, Do-hyun said. No more anesthetics, no more painkillers, just bandages and basic tools. What did she do? Harry asked. She kept working. She performed surgeries on soldiers who were awake and feeling everything. She talked to them, told them jokes, distracted them while she cut and stitched. Do-hyun's voice was heavy with emotion, and when she was wounded herself, a piece of metal in her leg, she sat down, removed it with her own hands, bandaged herself, and went back to work. Rilok's made a sound like a groan. We heard about this through our communications intercepts. Our medical officers refused to believe it. They said no species could ignore pain like that. They said the reports must be wrong. The reports were right, Do-hyun said. Jihye saved 17 lives during the siege. She worked with a hole in her leg for 2 days. When I asked her how she could stand it, she said, "Pain tells you that you are still alive. Dead people feel nothing. I will feel nothing when this is over. Until then, I have work to do." The Velith morale was breaking. Soldiers who had trained their entire lives to be fearless were having nightmares about humans. Some refused to eat. Some refused to sleep. A few simply walked away from the battlefield and never came back. We tried to understand, Relok said. We studied human biology. We learned about your evolution. And slowly, we began to realize the truth. What truth? Harry asked. Relox looked at Do-hyun. May I tell her? Do-hyun nodded. Humans evolved on a dangerous world, Relax said. You had predators faster than you, stronger than you, more deadly than you. By all logic, your species should have died out. But you did not. You survived because of one ability that no other intelligent species in the galaxy shares: persistence, Do-hyun said quietly. Yes. Your ancestors did not chase prey to catch it quickly. They chased prey until the prey's body gave up, until its heart stopped, until it collapsed from exhaustion. You call it persistence hunting. We call it horror. Relax's 4 hands were trembling. You brought that ability into space. You brought it to Outpost Kira. When we attacked you, you did not try to win quickly. You did not try to escape. You simply refused to stop. You kept fighting, and fighting, and fighting, until our soldiers' spirits collapsed, until their will to live broke under the weight of your will to not surrender. The 70th hour of the siege arrived. 53 humans were still alive. The Velith had lost nearly 5,000 soldiers. And then, the worst moment came. Captain Ji-yeon was shot, Do-hyun said. His voice cracked. A sniper. The bullet went through her chest. I was standing next to her when she fell. The room was silent. Even Relax seemed to be holding his breath. She did not die immediately, Do-hyun continued. She looked at me. There was blood on her lips. She said, "Take command. Hold until reinforcements come." I told her to lie still. I told her Jihi would save her. But she shook her head. Do-hyun closed his eyes. She said, "I am not dying in a bed. I am dying on my feet, walking toward the enemy." Ji-yeon stood up. Everyone tried to stop her. But she pushed them away. She walked to the weapons locker and took out a detonator. There were explosives planted in the tunnel system beneath the base. Emergency charges meant to collapse the tunnels if the enemy broke through. She walked out of the base, Do-hyun whispered. Alone, wounded, dying. She walked toward the main Velith position. Our enemies stopped shooting. I think they did not understand what she was doing. Relax's voice was barely audible. She walked for 200 meters. Our soldiers watched her come. Some raised their weapons, others did not. They were too confused. A dying human walking toward an army of thousands. It made no sense. End quote. When she reached the tunnel entrance, Do-hyun said. She turned around. She looked back at the base. At us. And she smiled. The same smile she had on the first day. Then she pressed the button. The explosion killed 800 Velith soldiers. It collapsed the entire tunnel network. It destroyed the Velith's main avenue of attack. And it killed Captain Bae Ji-yeon. She was 34 years old, Do-hyun said. She had no husband. No children. Her parents died when she was young. The military was her family. We were her family. And she gave her life so we could survive a few more hours. Hyeri wiped tears from her eyes. She had heard many war stories. But this one was different. This one hurt, in a way she could not explain. Her sacrifice bought us 4 hours, Do-hyun said. 4 hours that changed everything. Because in those 4 hours, we stopped being afraid. We stopped being soldiers. We became something else. What? Hyeri asked. Do-hyun opened his eyes. In them, she saw the ghost of a young man who had watched his captain walk into death. We became her legacy. We became the reason her sacrifice mattered. And we decided that nothing in this universe would make us give up. Relax nodded slowly. That was the moment we truly lost the war. Not when our soldiers died. Not when our supplies ran out. We lost when your captain showed us what humans were willing to do. Because we realized we could never match that willingness. We could never beat a species that loved its cause more than its own lives. The 71st hour began. 53 humans remained. The Velith still had thousands. But the balance had shifted in a way that numbers could not measure. The humans were no longer fighting to survive. They were fighting to make Ji-yeon's death matter. and that made them unstoppable. Do-hyun became the commander at hour 71. He was 21 years old. He had blood in his hair and burns on his arms. He had not slept in 3 days. And now 52 soldiers looked at him, waiting for orders. I did not feel ready, Do-hyun told Haeri. How could I be ready? Captain Ji-yeon had been a leader. I was just a sergeant who followed orders. But she had chosen me. So I had to try. The Velith were regrouping after the tunnel explosion. Their commanders were arguing about what to do next. Some wanted to continue the attack. Others wanted to wait for more reinforcements. A few wanted to leave entirely. We intercepted their communications, Do-hyun said. We heard their arguments. We heard the fear in their voices. And I made a decision that everyone thought was crazy. What decision? Haeri asked. Do-hyun looked at Relox. I ordered a counterattack. Relox made a sound that was almost a laugh. When we received reports of human soldiers leaving their base and advancing toward us, our commanders did not believe it. They thought the communications were broken. 50 wounded humans attacking 6,000 Velith warriors? It was impossible. Nothing is impossible, Do-hyun said. It is just difficult. The humans moved through the wreckage of the collapsed tunnels. They used the debris for cover, advancing slowly, firing at any Velith who came close. They had almost no ammunition left. Some soldiers carried only knives and metal pipes. I was in the front, Do-hyun said. I told my soldiers, we do not need to win. We just need to make them think we can win. If they believe we are strong, they will hesitate. And hesitation is death in war. The Velith hesitated. They saw wounded humans climbing over rocks, limping forward, refusing to stop. They saw soldiers helping each other walk while shooting with their free hands. They saw faces covered in blood but eyes that showed no surrender. Our younger soldiers broke first, Relox admitted. They were trained to fight enemies who valued their own lives. They were not trained to fight enemies who welcomed death. When your soldiers kept advancing despite their wounds, our warriors thought they were facing spirits, ghosts, things that could not be killed. Private Choi Minho was 19 years old. During the counterattack, he saw 3 wounded soldiers trapped behind enemy lines. Without orders, without protection, he ran across open ground. Enemy fire hit the rocks around him. He kept running. He reached the wounded soldiers and carried them back one by one, Do-hyun said. 3 trips across open ground while the Velith shot at him. He was hit twice, once in the leg, once in the shoulder. He did not stop. Why? Haeri asked. Why did he risk everything for 3 people? Do-hyun smiled sadly. Because that is what humans do. We do not leave our people behind. We would rather die together than live alone. The counterattack lasted 4 hours. The humans pushed the Velith back nearly half a kilometer. They did not have the numbers to hold the ground. They did not have the weapons to defeat the enemy, but they had something more important. Will, Relox said. Pure, unbreakable will. Your soldiers wanted to win more than they wanted to live, and that is something no army can defeat. By hour 75, the Velith general made a decision. He had lost too many soldiers. His warriors were refusing to advance. Morale had collapsed. He ordered a full retreat. We did not believe it at first, Do-hyun said. We watched them pull back and thought it was a trick. But they kept going. Thousands of Velith warriors walking away from 50 wounded humans. The communications officer, Oh Soo-jin, was 26 years old. She had been wounded in the first attack but refused to stop working. Throughout the siege, she sent messages to the human fleet, hoping someone would hear. On hour 75, she sent one final message, Do-hyun said. She said, Outpost, Kira still stands. We are still fighting. Tell our families we did not kneel. That message traveled across space. It reached human ships. It reached human colonies. It reached Earth itself. And it changed everything. Your message became famous, Relox said. Even on our worlds, people heard about it. A small group of humans who refused to surrender against impossible odds. Some Velith thought it was propaganda. Others knew it was true, and they were afraid. Admiral Shin Tae-woo was the commander of the nearest human fleet. He had received orders to wait for reinforcements before attempting a rescue. But when he heard Sujin's message, he changed his mind. He brought his entire fleet to Kira, Do-hyun said. 12 ships against what remained of the Velith force. When he arrived, he found the Velith already retreating. And he found us. Do-hyun remembered the moment the rescue ships landed. He was standing at the entrance of the base, too tired to move. Around him, 18 other soldiers remained standing. The rest were wounded too badly to walk. Or they were dead. Admiral Tae-woo stepped off his ship, Do-hyun said. He looked at us. 19 soldiers standing among thousands of enemy dead. I tried to salute, but my arm would not work properly, so I just said, "Outpost Kira reporting, sir. We held." Harry wiped her eyes. She was crying again, but she did not care. Tae-woo was an old soldier, Do-hyun continued. He had seen many battles. But he told me later that nothing in his life had prepared him for what he saw at Kira. He said we looked like ghosts, like spirits that had refused to pass on. The 19 standing soldiers were taken to medical ships. The wounded were evacuated. The dead were collected and prepared for return to their families. 33 soldiers had survived the siege. 81 had died. We won, Do-hyun said. But it did not feel like victory. It felt like we had lost something important, pieces of ourselves that we would never get back. Relax was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke. The true aftermath was not at Kira. It was in the months that followed. When the Velith High Council learned what had happened, they did not celebrate the soldiers who died. They studied the humans who lived. What did they learn? Harry asked. They learned that humans could not be defeated by normal means. They learned that attacking human positions would cost more than it was worth. They learned that even if they won every battle, they would lose the war, because humans would never stop fighting. Within 1 year, the Velith government requested peace talks. Within 2 years, they signed a treaty that gave humans everything they wanted. Within 10 years, the two species were trading partners. We did not surrender because we were weak, Relax said. We surrendered because we were wise. We saw the truth at Kira. Humans are not a species you defeat. They are a species you make peace with, or die trying to destroy. Do-hyun nodded. The war cost both sides too much. The Velith lost thousands of their best soldiers. We lost friends, family, parts of ourselves that would never heal. But at least it ended. At least the killing stopped. Do you regret it? Hyeri asked. The fighting? The killing? The things you had to do? Do-hyun thought for a long time before answering. I regret that it was necessary. I regret that so many good people died, but I do not regret fighting. If we had surrendered at Kira, the Velith would have thought humans were weak. They would have attacked other colonies. More people would have died in the end. Relax agreed. Your stand at Kira saved millions of lives on both sides. By showing what humans could do, you made the war too expensive to continue. You bought peace with blood. The interview room felt heavy with memory. 2 old soldiers, 1 human and 1 alien, carrying the weight of history between them. There is one more thing, Do-hyun said. One truth that people forget when they talk about Kira. What is that? Harry asked. We were not heroes. We were not special warriors. We were just people who made a choice. We chose to fight instead of surrender. We chose to stand instead of run. Any human could have made that choice. Any human would have. Relax nodded slowly. That is the terrifying thing about your species. You are not strong because of your leaders or your technology. You are strong because every single one of you carries the same fire inside, the same stubborn refusal to give up. Cut off 1 human, and the others fight harder. Kill 1,000, and 10,000 rise to take their place. That is humanity, Do-hyun said. That is what we are. And that is why the galaxy learned to fear us at Outpost Kira. Hyeri looked at her recording devices. Hours of testimony. Memories that would be preserved forever. Stories that would teach future generations what their ancestors had done. Thank you, she said. Both of you. This history matters. Do-hyun and Relox looked at each other. The old enemies, the old soldiers, the only ones left who truly understood. History matters, Do-hyun agreed. But remembering is not enough. The next generation must learn why we fought. Not just how. Why did you fight? Haeri asked. Do-hyun smiled. It was the same smile Captain Jian had worn on the first day. The smile of someone who knew something others did not. Because surrender was never an option. Because humans would rather die standing than live on their knees. Because that is who we are. And that is who we will always be. The interview had lasted 6 hours. Outside the window of the archive station, the stars continued their eternal dance. Inside, 3 people sat with the weight of history between them. Haeri turned off one of her recording devices but left the other running. She had collected more than enough information. But something told her the most important part was yet to come. I have one final question, she said. For both of you. Do-hyun and Relox waited. What do you think made humans so terrifying to the Velith? Not the fighting, not the willpower. Something deeper. What is it about humans that changed everything? Do-hyun looked at his scarred hands. He had thought about this question for 47 years. He had never found an answer that satisfied him. I do not know, he admitted. I was just a young man who did not want to die. I was scared every moment of those 3 days. I cried when my friends died. I wanted to go home. There was nothing special about me. Relox made a sound that might have been disagreement. You are wrong, he said. You do not see what you are because you have always been human. Let me tell you what I see when I look at your species. I too. He shifted his large body in the small chair. His 4 arms moved slowly as he spoke. The Velith studied every intelligent species in this region of space. We ranked them by strength, speed, intelligence, technology. By every measure, humans were in the middle, not the best at anything, not the worst, just average creatures on an average world. Then why were you afraid of us? Haeri asked. Because your averageness hides something extraordinary. You are not the strongest species. But you push your bodies beyond any reasonable limit. You are not the smartest species, but you never stop learning and adapting. You are not the fastest species, but you do not need speed, because you simply never stop chasing. Relox's black eyes seemed to grow deeper. Your ancestors on Earth did something no other species in the galaxy ever did. They learned to run their prey to death. Not with strength, not with weapons, just with patience and will. They would follow an animal for hours, for days, until its body simply gave up. Persistence hunting, Do-hyun said quietly. Yes, and when your species went to space, you brought that ability with you. But you did not use it against animals. You used it against problems, against challenges, against enemies. You chase your goals with the same endless patience your ancestors used to chase food. Relox leaned forward. That is what makes humans terrifying. You do not need to be the best at anything because you will simply outlast everything. You will keep trying. Keep fighting. Keep pushing. Until you succeed. Or until the universe itself ends. Haeri felt something stir in her chest. She had never thought about her species this way. At Outpost Kira, Relox continued, we threw everything at your soldiers. We had better weapons, better numbers, better training. But every time we thought we had won, your humans got back up. They refused to accept defeat. They refused to die properly. They kept fighting with broken bodies and empty weapons. His voice dropped lower. Do you know what my soldiers asked me on the 3rd day? They asked why the humans would not stop. They asked what kind of species fights harder when it is losing. They asked if humans felt pain at all. I had no answers for them. I still do not. Do-hyun smiled faintly. We feel pain. We feel fear. We feel everything you feel. But we have learned to use those feelings instead of being controlled by them. How? Relox asked. It was a genuine question. one he had wondered about for decades. I do not know exactly, Do-hyun admitted. Maybe it is because our history is full of suffering. We survived ice ages when we should have frozen. We survived plagues that killed most of our population. We survived wars that destroyed entire civilizations. Every generation of humans has faced challenges that should have ended us, but we are still here. He looked out the window at the stars. I think pain and fear are like old friends to humans. We have lived with them so long that we know how to work alongside them. We do not try to eliminate them. We just do what needs to be done despite them, Haeri asked. Is that what happened at Kira? You just kept going despite everything? Yes, we did not have a choice. Surrender meant death or slavery. Fighting meant possible survival, so we fought. And when fighting became hopeless, we kept fighting anyway, because the alternative was worse. Relox made a sound like a sigh. The Velith High Council held many meetings after Kira. They brought scientists, psychologists, military experts. Everyone tried to explain what had happened. In the end, they created a new classification for humans in our database. What classification? Haeri asked. Class Omega Threat. It means a species that cannot be safely engaged in war. Not because of weapons or technology. Because of spirit. Because humans will pay any price, bear any burden, endure any hardship to protect what they love. Do-hyun laughed softly. We just call it being stubborn. It is more than stubbornness, Relox said. Other species are stubborn, but they have limits. They reach a point where the cost becomes too high, where giving up makes sense. Humans do not have that point, or if they do, it is so far beyond any reasonable limit that it might as well not exist. The room fell silent. Haeri looked at her recording device, making sure it was still capturing everything. There is something else, she said. Something I have always wondered. After everything that happened, after all the fighting and killing, how can you two sit in the same room? How can you share this story together? Do-hyun and Relox looked at each other. For a moment, they were not an old human and an old Velith. They were just two soldiers who had survived something terrible. Because we understand each other, Do-hyun said finally. Relox knows what I went through. I know what he went through. We were enemies, but we were also just people following orders, trying to survive, watching friends die. The war took something from both of us, Relox added. It left holes in our hearts that nothing can fill. But talking about it, sharing the truth, helps a little. It makes the weight easier to carry. Do-hyun stood up slowly. His old body protested, joints cracking, muscles aching. He walked to a small table in the corner and picked up a bottle and 2 glasses. I brought this from Earth, he said. Rice wine. My grandmother used to make it. He poured 2 glasses and offered one to Relox. I have been saving it for today. I've been saving it for today. Relox took the glass carefully in his large hands. I cannot drink your alcohol. It is poison to my body. I know, but you can hold it. The gesture is what matters. They raised their glasses. 2 old enemies, 2 old soldiers, the last survivors of a moment that changed history. To Captain Bae Ji-yeon, Do-hyun said. To all who fell, Relox added. They sat in silence for a while, remembering the dead. Then Relox spoke one final time. The galaxy has faster species than humans, stronger species, species with better technology and larger numbers. But when I close my eyes at night, I do not see any of them. I see your soldiers at Kira. I see them smiling through the blood. I see them laughing in the face of death. And I thank every star in the sky that we made peace, instead of continuing to fight. And if faced with 34-1, Do-hyun nodded. War is easy to start and hard to end. Peace is hard to start but worth every effort to maintain. I hope your people and mine remember that. We will, Relox said. Outpost Kira made sure of that. Your sacrifice there did not just win a battle. It won a future. A future where humans and Velith do not have to kill each other. Haeri stopped her recording device. She had everything she needed. More than enough to tell the story properly. Thank you, she said again. Both of you. This will be preserved forever in the archive. Future generations will know what happened. They will know the truth. Do-hyun smiled one last time. It was the smile of a man who had finally set down a heavy burden. The truth is simple, he said. Humans are not special. We are not heroes. We are just people who refuse to give up. That is our only gift. And it is enough. Relax stood up, his tall body unfolding from the small chair. He looked down at Do-hyun with something like respect. Maybe even friendship. It is more than enough, he said. It is everything. And that is why the galaxy will never forget what humanity did at Outpost Kira. The interview ended. The recording devices were packed away. Haeri left the station with stories that would echo through history. But Do-hyun and Relax remained. Two old soldiers, sharing silence and memories. They stayed until the stars outside shifted to a new pattern. Then they said goodbye, knowing they might never see each other again. Neither of them minded. They had told the truth. They had honored the dead. And they had shown the galaxy what humans really were. Not monsters, not demons, just people who never stopped fighting for what mattered. And in the end, that was the most terrifying thing of all.